why did I choose to start an online maths tutoring company? And really, why should you start any business over another? Because the reality is, if you are planning on building a real business that's going to be bigger than just you and is actually going to make an impact on a lot of people, once you pass a significant number, and it changes from business to business, it's in the region of 1 million to 10 million a year. Every business becomes the same at that point. There's only a few fundamental pieces that a business has, and that is let people know that you exist, contact the people who say that they're interested, fulfill the product or service, and then continuity off the back end, whatever that looks like. But that's essentially every business in a nutshell, right? And within that, there's collecting payments, there is hiring people, there's legals, there's all that sort of stuff. But those are needed for a business, but they're not essential. Like, if you didn't have them, you'd still have a business, right? So talking about the business that we have now specifically, and what business should you pick, the reason we chose this is because we noticed a gap in the market that we thought we could utilize and exploit, and it aligned with the skill sets that we have. So it was a way for us to sell a higher ticket item than we'd ever sold before. Previously, we'd sold coffee and chocolate, right? Small everyday luxuries. Yeah. And now we're talking ticket prices that are on average 10 times bigger. So that's good. And we're still not a high ticket item. We're still very medium ticket, that our average customer spends just under £1,000 with us. So we're not very expensive, but some customers spend upwards of 5. So there's the opportunity there. The reason that we chose this, like what was the gap that we saw, is that this specific industry, there's no regulation in the country, and so it's Russian roulette. People struggle with it a lot, and it's most people's side gig. Or on the opposite end, you've got companies that are marketplaces or agencies, and there's kind of nothing in between. And so we thought, well, the skills that we have of building businesses, recruiting people, creating systems, advertising, sales, all that sort of stuff, would work really well in this specific area. And it's an opportunity that is potentially 10 times bigger than the one we were looking at before. So that's why we picked this. And along with the main thing that we wanted our business to be, which was location independent, we wanted it to be fully online. But you can do that with like anything nowadays. Okay, not anything. Like, you can't have an online Mr. Whippy van, right? Well, maybe Amazon could if they drop shipped it. If they did like a drone drop shipping of a mini ice cream van. That would be crazy. Probably not worth it. But this is what I'm getting at, is that it doesn't really matter too much what you pick. If you have skill in the area that you are wanting, especially a service, if you have a skill in this service and you're able to, and that other people also have the skill, then you'll be able to scale it. As long as you can figure out a way to market it, the rest of it should be able to come. Different businesses have different sets of problems, and they all have problems. So even within this space, the way in which you choose to market will create different plateaus. So, for example, we have almost zero social media exposure. No one knows who we are until they get on a call with us, but our offer is so good it closes anyway. Whereas on the flip side, a friend of ours is the complete opposite, and he's all organic, and his ads would be useless if you didn't know who he was, because his offer on the surface sounds wishy-washy and generic. But if you actually know who he is and what he does, it's well worth the money. So what limits our scaling capacity is our ability to hire well-trained salespeople, and his big limiter is being able to essentially become famous. He needs more eyes to see him organically. And that creates a difference in business strategy, even within the same, essentially, education space, online education. But you've got a load of different types. The most common one that people think of if you say startup is going to be something that's tech founded, which is going to have investment, which will have very little income to start with, which is why you need lots of investment, and then it goes a hockey stick, hopefully, if ever, down the line. You've got typical manufacturing and e-commerce. You end up with supply chain blocks that becomes the real constraint of the business. And so to overcome that, you need to get better manufacturers, you need to get better relationships with those people and break down those supply chains. Maybe that's creating stuff in-house, maybe it's sourcing it locally or having a distribution center close to the customer and stuff like that. And they typically require a decent amount of capital up front. And again, that varies from, are you drop shipping e-commerce or are you actually manufacturing it yourself to start off with? And then so that's like going up like steps. And then you've got service-based businesses like ours, which are pretty much linear growth, and it's how quickly and efficiently can you scale fulfillment and sales. And it's like one piece at a time. If you add an extra salesperson, you get one extra salesperson's worth of revenue consistently. And then you've also got Info product, which is what my friend is in. Info kind of does the opposite of software, where it's that you can create great leverage by yourself, but to scale past you becomes quite difficult because you either need to become famous to the point of people you've heard like Taki Moore, Dan Martell, and a load of other, like, basically if you know any guy who's famous about business on the internet, that's what they do. And then being able to scale that, it's a different set of problems, and you can choose which problems you want, but past 10 mil, even all of those businesses end up pretty much the same anyway. And so it's like, what starting playthrough do you want? And at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter that much. If you provide immense value and you charge what you're worth, and that gives you profit, that's the basic sentiment of a good business. Do you have a consistent way of people to find you? You do a great service and they pay you and have money left over. If that's true, you're likely to have a good business. And so it doesn't really matter what business you pick. I would say I'd recommend looking at what skills do you have and start there. Hope it helps. Have a great day. Peace.